who's supposed to be something? David, we gotta be in Camps Bay. Let's go. Come, let's go. It is a beautiful day today in Cape Town. This is going to be an amazing episode of Coffee with Craig once again. It is going to be so inspiring because we are going to be chatting to an extreme athlete who's a 3 times Guinness World Book record holder. My friend Ryan Stramrood is going to share what he teaches as a performance coach and a motivational speaker. So make sure to watch this one. Make sure to hit like. Make sure to subscribe. Let's go. Ryan, thanks for joining us on Coffee with Craig. So I think the first reason why I wanted you to be here is because you went to a proper school. So you went to Rondebosch, which is always a good thing. You're an extreme sports person, so you do a lot of extreme sport, which is amazing. I love that. And a little bit of our story is a little bit similar. I was never a swimmer ever in my life, and I decided I'm going to get involved with Ironman, and I had to learn to actually swim. Yeah. And I've come here to Camps Bay, to Clifton, to learn to swim in this ocean that we have in Cape Town. And it's a scary thing to do for the first time.
Indeed.
I know with Ironman, a lot of people are scared of swimming, but they're okay with cycling and running.
Yeah.
And it's something that I had to overcome myself. And I know you go and do the most extreme types of swimming ever. You've got 3 Guinness Book of World Records, so I want to chat a little bit about that. And you are a performance coach and a speaker, which is amazing. So if I go back and I think about how I got into swimming, it was because I entered a race. Is your story similar of how you got involved with this extreme cold water swimming?
Yeah, it's such a journey. Certainly the extreme cold stuff came much further down the line. I've always enjoyed swimming as a kid. Junior school I used to swim in the galas and always did okay. I was kind of near the front, maybe not the winner. And then I stopped for a long time until I was much older, and I went away. I was getting fat and lazy on the couch, and loving the remote way too much. And I took a client away for a weekend just as a business thing. And I said, gee, I need to do something. And he said, well, join my little swimming squad that I go to. And that was at the ripe old age of 29. I'm now 48, by the way.
You look good for 48.
Cheers, no grey yet, thankfully. And yeah, I haven't looked back. I did 20 lengths on that first session.
First time.
Yeah, and I nearly had to vomit because I was so exhausted. And you're always a little bit too bullish, and you jump in the fast lane thinking like that's where your level is, and of course it's not. But you last 5 lengths, and then you realize you're in deep trouble. But anyway, I stuck to it for the first time in my life, and it started a fascinating journey for me.
Okay, and that's led you on to becoming a speaker.
It has, yes. So certainly, again, absolutely not something I ever planned. I'm a salesman by trade. I run an advertising sales business still today. But I started to do these lots of swimming, which eventually led to trying my first Robben Island crossing here in Cape Town.
So there's one of those coming up now.
I do.
You can do it whenever you want to. I mean, you've done over 100 of those swims already.
Correct. I've done 118. I did one this morning actually before I interviewed you, Craig. Yeah, when the water's warm and the sky's blue. And I can clear my diary, off I go. But Robben Island, which was the absolute Everest for me, and this is part of what I love to teach people, or at least share the word with people, is it used to be the absolute Everest for me. The idea of swimming in a speedo in that cold water, all the way from 7.5 k's from the island to Blouberg Beach, was an impossible for me. It was reserved for those much better people, for those athletes, for people of different skill set, not for me. Yet somehow I ended up doing it. I took the goal, and we'll get into that a bit later. But now Robben Island is a training swim for me. It's just a fascinating perspective. Once you start, how you start doing something, how it then becomes, first it's the Everest, it becomes your platform to take the leap onto higher things.
Something bigger and better.
Yeah, there's so much in that.
Okay, so you started swimming. You joined a master swim squad. I know when I started with Ironman, I had to go and start a swim squad, and I used to, the night before I had the swimming squad, the next day, I used to get a bit nervous. Because I was like, I'm not a swimmer, now I'm going to swim squad with all these amazing swimmers, and they're swimming so quickly, and I have to try and keep up as much as I can. And now I can go and swim 3.8 k's in the ocean. So for me, 3.8 k's is a lot. You're talking about Robben Island, which is double that.
Yeah.
And you're doing that in a speedo.
Yes.
Not in a wetsuit.
No.
I'm at least, my swims are at least in a wetsuit.
Yeah.
And I know the water here in Cape Town is so cold. I couldn't think of ever not wearing a wetsuit and getting in the water. And I come and do these one-sum swims, and I spend some time in the water. When I take off my wetsuit, I mean, my body just feels terrible. It takes long to warm up again.
Yeah.
How did you get involved with that, this ice-cold, freezing swimming?
Well, firstly, I live in Cape Town, so the water, if I don't want to be in a swimming pool all the time and I want to get in the sea, you've got to start enduring some cold water. Now, I've never been a wetsuit guy, but quite quickly, and firstly, if you want to do a Robben Island and be officially recognized back in the day, you couldn't wear a wetsuit. You can't do anything. It's just a Speedo goggles and one cap, and that's it. Otherwise, you're not recognized. And what a lot of people don't realize is that the difficulty of a Robben Island, although it's a very long distance to swim, anybody can get fit enough to do that. You put in the hours, you put in the work, you can get your body fit enough and your muscles ready to do that. What is exceptionally difficult is controlling your mind in that cold, because humans have not evolved well at all to handle the cold. We've evolved very well to avoid it. So when you throw yourself into that, like, these defense mechanisms just kick in and they want to get you up. And in the early days of doing my cold swimming, I started to realize this, just how negative I would become, and how I was never looking for reasons to stay in longer and to finish a swim. I was always looking for reasons why I should get out and not lose too much face. And that fascinated me. So that's a discipline that I adopted. You, on the other hand, you want to do Ironman and triathletes, etc. You don't have to endure hard cold. So if I didn't have to, I wouldn't.
You wouldn't do it. But you do it anyway. It's tough, it's difficult, and it's about setting that next standard the whole time.
Correct.
So I want to find out a little bit more about not only how you prepare physically to go and do something like Robben Island, but how do you prepare mentally to be able to do that with sharks and with the cold water?
Well, it's a great question, because it is all about the mental aspect of it. Again, you can do the physical work, you can get yourself fit enough to do it, but what happens upstairs is where it really happens. And again, the cold implements these defense mechanisms to convince you to get out. You become what I call an excuse magnet. As humans, as soon as there's a reason for us not to do something we actually really don't want to do, you become this excuse magnet, and anything that comes your way, you adopt. And sharks is definitely one of them. Like, what's that? You're looking straight down into the blue abyss, you see things down there. There are things that sting you, there are things that bite you. The water's horrible, it gets into your core. It's something that you need to practice. And I became fascinated by just how mentally difficult it is. And I started watching more and more people trying it and failing and trying it and failing.
Okay.
And I was watching, what are they doing wrong? Because they're all fitter than me. A lot of them are fitter than me anyway. So why aren't they handling it? And I realized
you were handling it.
I was handling it, not easily, but I was understanding a mental process that was happening. And the people who were failing a lot of the time weren't.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about that, but let's go and find another place. It's beautiful out here in Camps Bay, and let's try and share with you guys a little bit more of the beauty that we have here in Camps Bay. So let's go head over to another location. Ryan, yesterday I was actually mountain biking with a previous guest from Coffee with Craig, and he went and did the one-sum swim this past weekend.
Yeah.
He's done it many times before, but he was saying because he hasn't done it in now 18 months because of COVID, doing it for the first time was scary. It was outside his comfort zone. He's been swimming in the gym, but he hasn't been in this open water with the cold, the freezing, putting his head in the water, and he's done it. Now what I want to know from you, being a performance coach, so for the viewers who might not have ever swum before, how do you prepare mentally for the cold, for not being able to just put your feet on the floor like you would in a normal swimming pool? How do you prepare for that? Not physically, but mentally.
Baby steps. Firstly, session with me as a performance coach, obviously.
There we go. So talking about that, how would people get in touch with you?
Very easy. My website, ryanstramrood.com. To get the spelling of Stramrood, I'm sure you'll put it on the screen.
I'll put it in the description
over there. Craig, I will just have a very cool conversation with him, because it's absolutely natural and healthy to have those butterflies, to have that fear, because as humans we have not evolved well, as I've said already, to handle the cold. It is going to, without a doubt, you're going to get nervous, you're going to feel some trepidation getting in there.
No matter what.
No matter what. Yeah, even me, this morning I swam my 118th Robben Island, and sitting on the boat out to the island, as I start then I swim back to the beach, I have to talk to myself. I have a little moment where I just go inward and I say, you're going to feel this, you're going to hate that, You're gonna want to do that. In other words, climb out. How are you gonna overcome it? And I just get over that. I understand
so I love that. My last video, I actually spoke a lot about mentally talking to yourself, because you spend more time actually talking to yourself than anyone else. So it's important to prepare for that.
Absolutely.
What do you say to yourself to prepare for those kind of crazy ice cold swims?
Yeah, everybody has their own tricks, but I generally set myself a time period where I'm not allowed a single negative thought. Okay, because negative thoughts just manifest and they breed, and it makes you even more of an excuse magnet. So I say to myself, right, Ryan, let's call it an 8K swim. For the first 5 kilometers, not one negative thought is allowed in your head. But then as a treat, when you've only got 3Ks to go, you can moan, you can swear, because by then I know there's no way I'm getting out. So what I'm trying to illustrate is set yourself little mini goals within whatever your bigger task is. I'm not trying to get everybody into cold water, but what we experience in the cold water, all those feelings, all those concerns, all those that natural desire to get back to comfort, in other words, out the cold water, happens in our everyday lives without a fail, certainly in the corporate world when there's a target too high or an environment too hostile. And it's just about breaking it down, and that is so easy to say and so hard to do. So I spend a lot of time talking to guys, just saying, look, you're going to do a swim, or if it's a swim, or if you've got whatever problem it is, let's just unpack it. What are your short-term goals? How much time do you have? What training have you done? What do you think you should have done? What could you do better? And we just unpack it like that. And once you've got all your mental draws in a row, it becomes a lot less daunting.
And do you think that's something that ever goes away? Where you ever think to yourself, yes, I'm confident, I can do anything, let's go swim, let's go cycle, let's go run, let's go take on business? Or do you think that negative chatter always comes back?
I think you're always going to have those concerns. We default as humans to gravitate to comfort. That's without a doubt. So nearly every single time I stand on the shore, when I'm doing an English Channel or I'm trying to swim across False Bay, for example, that's 34 kilometers. How do I get my mind ready for that? I don't walk there and go, oh, I've got this. I'm nervous as hang, although I've done it many times before in other places. I've swum in 0 degree water, in -1 degree water in Antarctica. Humans aren't meant to do that. And if anyone thinks,
so I've seen you speak about that in some of your keynotes,
right?
Where it's so freezing cold. I don't know if my body would be able to handle it, but I mean, for most people, your body starts dying at that level of temperature.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then you have to, but don't you start to hallucinate because your body's shutting down?
You go into hypothermia, so your mind gets a bit confused. But essentially, when you impact with water that's as cold as I've just described, 0 degrees or -1, which is the coldest I've done, the mind immediately implements pain, panic, and fear. It denies you the ability of rational thought. It implements hyperventilation. You cannot do anything but try and get out. And while you're doing that, your body's implementing its own defense mechanisms. All that blood's rushing from your extremities, muscles, and thighs, not just fingers and toes, to sit in your center core, keep your heart beating for your brain. That's a very, very uncomfortable feeling. It's a horrible feeling. And I have trained really hard to understand that process, A, and B, to overcome it when I impact with that cold. And what I've learned from that, Craig, has just been phenomenal. It's probably just scratching the surface of the human mind, but it's a slightly unique understanding that I have. And I take the lessons from the cold, which are very real and very true, and you suddenly realize how applicable they are to everybody's daily life.
Business, COVID, survival.
That's what I relay, and that's where I gain the experience.
So in your daily life, you're doing these crazy things like Robben Island, and you've got 3 Guinness Book of Records. What are those for?
3, yeah. One is, first one I got from swimming around the southernmost point of South America with a bunch
South
of
America.
South America. It's called the Sailor's Graveyard, Cape Horn. That's a crazy story. You can really write a book about that. And then I was part of a team who swam the first time ever from mainland Russia across the Bering Sea, where they filmed that Deadliest Catch program on DSTV, all the way across to the United States. And that was also recognized by Guinness. And then more recently, in March this year, actually, I swam across False Bay, so 34 kilometers from Miller's Point across to
34 Ks?
Yeah.
How long did that take you?
Took me 8 hours and 39 minutes, which was the fastest crossing ever. I was the 6th person to ever get it right. The first person to ever try it from Miller's Point to Roy Else, that's sort of almost against the grain.
It's almost 40, close to 42 Ks where people struggled to run and you swam.
Correct. Yeah.
So that's worth being in the Guinness Book of Records, I'd say.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and I got the fastest time, which
and the fastest time.
You know, and I'm not built for speed, so I was very happy with that. I chose my day really right.
Yeah, well done. That's great. So you're doing all these crazy things. You've been to Antarctica in that freezing cold water, and you weren't eaten by one of those. What are those? Those almost like leopard seals. Okay, so I've seen some of the videos of that on some of your talks, your keynote talks.
Yeah.
And you've got through COVID now, which has been tough for anyone that's a speaker. How have you prepared your mind to get through COVID as a speaker?
Yeah.
Because you couldn't also just go swim because we were in lockdown.
Oh, you know what, Craig, obviously as a speaker, business didn't slow down when we got hit the lockdowns. It stopped overnight. So it was quite brutal. And, once I stopped spinning and, flap trying to figure out what to do, and I actually just looked at the wood from the trees, and I started to draw some amazing similarities between the ultra extreme adventures that I've had and challenges that I take on, and exactly what I am and everybody else was in right there and then. And through a process, obviously I had to do all those lovely words of pivot, really had to, in real life, to figure out how am I going to make myself relevant and run my business virtually, before virtual was even really a thing that we spoke about all the time. And just to basically understand that I started to adopt that you cannot wait and look or chase the light at the end of the tunnel. You need to slow down. You need to let your eyes adjust. You need to dress warmly for the damp that's inside that tunnel, and look for the opportunities inside it. And I'm using all these wonderful similarities, but it is so apt. I was focused on the light at the end of the tunnel, when things get back to normal, when things improve.
Go back.
But as soon as I stopped and had a look, like, hang on, things are like this. I'm in this tunnel. It's dark. It's damp. I started to spot opportunities all the time, and I maybe didn't have all the tools to unlock them. So what did I do? Using my time in COVID, I started to develop the tools and the skill sets to unlock certain opportunities within that.
And was that potentially an opportunity for you to start writing a book?
Absolutely. That's exactly one of the things I did. I used a lot of time to start that book that I've been talking about for so long, and my manager has been wanting to hit me for because I procrastinate. Writing a book's a very vulnerable experience, and the book that I'm now just about to finish, it's my whole story, and it's a lot from the heart, and it literally takes me from the couch as a couch potato to 3 Guinness World Records, and a lot of...
And when do you think that's going to come out?
I'm aiming for March, April next year. There's a lot of pros. I'm trying to finish it now before the end of this year, and then there's a lot of stuff that needs to happen.
Goes with it. Yeah. So everything that you've been through, from a swimming point of view, as a speaker, writing a book now, COVID, what are some simple steps that you can give to someone that's sitting on the couch now that wants to live a healthy lifestyle, do something to break some of their comfort zone barriers?
The hardest part is getting off the couch, so to speak. And literally, in my case, I had to get off the couch. It's taking that first step, because we all have these, we all feel we are limited. And we all have what our Everests are, especially in sport. I can't do that because I'm not a cyclist, I'm not a runner, or
your identity that you have for yourself.
It's the identity that you tell yourself you have. Now, I promise you, I'm now a globally recognized speaker. I don't compete really, but I set challenges around the world, and I'm part of this little group of sports extremists. If you told me a couple of years ago that would be me, I would laugh at you. But it's a journey. I didn't wake up here and try and do that. I did this swim squad, and then I did that, and then I did that. And the brave thing I had to do was become aware of what's happening in my head and how we are defaulted to comfort. Our brains, our minds they want to protect us. They don't want us to fail.
So let me ask you about that, because for most people, they say that it's more scary to stand on stage and be a speaker, public speaking, than to die. Is that something that you had to overcome?
It is, I'm very confident on stage, so I've never had a real problem with it, but every now and then I'm put in a position that I do, so look at all these people watching me. And to be honest, the virtual platforms are hard. You're speaking, the other day I was doing one for 750 people around Greater Europe. I'm speaking to a bunch of darkened thumbnails that are all on mute to a little green light, and that's daunting, and I'm getting paid
more
for it.
So than actually having them in an audience.
I can't see if they're laughing, if they're walking away making coffee, if they're engaged, and that to me, not being able to read the body language and read the room, was my scary moment. But I've got over that as well now. I know it works. Yeah.
So the one thing that you also said, your Everest was doing Robben Island. You've done it over 100 times, and now that's a training for you.
Correct.
So it's amazing how you can push the limits, and that then becomes your standard.
Correct.
And I think in life, to like live a better life, it's all about like increasing your standards the whole time. Better quality of standards, you live life better in everything that you do. Because what I find when I start training more for Ironman, I start doing better in business. And then I'm better in my relationships, and I'm better in you have this knock-on effect in other things.
All linked, Craig. And you know, what I wanted to say is we have evolved very, very well to avoid danger. Okay? And that's to run into a fire or walk off a cliff. But what's a side effect of that is we've also evolved really well to avoid the emotional pain that comes from failure. Because when we fail, when we try something we don't know the outcome to, there's a chance of failure, and failure hurts. There's emotional pain. So what happens subconsciously, we just don't try. Okay? And once you're aware of that, you can start to realize, why am I not taking that challenge on? Is it really because it's for other people? Is it because I'm actually scared and my brain is protecting me and keeping me in comfort? Once you're aware of it, you can start to believe it's relevant to you. Okay, and that's a step that I take people to. Once you believe it's not just for other people, it's actually for you, and you get to that point, then we've got to get you brave enough to try. Because once you try, even if you fail, guaranteed you have learned something about yourself. Okay, and that lesson you take and you use when you try again or you try something different. If you don't try, you've already failed. We all know that. Okay, and I mean the quote that I absolutely love, it's Oliver someone, forgive me, I can't remember the surname right now on the spot, but a mind expanded by a new experience can never return to its former dimensions. Just think about that for a second. But if you didn't try, your mind stays exactly where it was in your comfort zone.
Well, there we go. I mean, I think let's leave it on that, because I think that's such a nice little quote. So for me, my challenge for you is to try and do something that's going to expand your mind. So we're coming to the end of 2021. It's a perfect time to set a goal, set a challenge, enter a race for 2022. So that's my challenge for you. I'm going to link Ryan's email address and website in the description below. If you want to get in touch with him for a keynote or for performance coaching, you're more than welcome to do that. And he's going to challenge you as well. So get off the couch and just do it. I hope you've enjoyed this video of Coffee with Craig. You've met some nice new guests that went to a proper school. Until next week, we're out of here. Aren't we just supposed to be somewhere? Oh. No.